for a year, and you are our first guest for our Art of Storytelling exhibit. So thank you for being here. We're a nonprofit that makes grants and does programs across the state that connect us together and amplify stories we don't always hear through the public humanities. And our exhibit tonight with these glorious quilts is really an opportunity to say the arts and the humanities work together, hand in hand, to help express our voices and the things that are important in our histories. And so I invite you, as you've been doing, to really enjoy the quilts and talk to the quilt makers about their inspirations. But for the moment, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Neha Balram. She's our community engagement coordinator, and she's the person who put all of this together. So, Neha.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for coming. I know I got to shake a few hands and meet some of the artists, but if you have a chance to come by and introduce yourself to me, I'd love to know the face of the person that created these beautiful pieces of art. But the reason why we really wanted to display these quilts on our blank walls was not just to have, something pretty to look at. Of course, they're beautiful and we enjoy that. We've enjoyed that this past week. But they tell a real story. And they tell the story of Oakland. And from a perspective that is very unique and special. A lot of us, we might work in Oakland, we might live in Oakland, we might be new to Oakland or have been here for several years. But your stories that you're telling are very, very unique, and especially you cannot get that from a Wikipedia page about Oakland. And that's why we've invited you guys to show your art. This, of course, is the beginning of our Art of Storytelling exhibition series. So this means you guys are the first to have your art on our wall, and we will invite local artists over the next few months to show their work and tell their story. I'm just so thrilled to have you guys here, and I can't thank you enough for telling your story and having us all here to enjoy that and hear it and get your perspective. First, we'll have Marion Coleman, who, if you haven't had a chance already to see her work is the Black Cowboys piece and then the Firestone piece on the far end. She is a former grantee of ours and introduced us to the African American Quilt Guild of Oakland, whose some of their work you see here today and then throughout the city. She'll be telling us a little bit more about what the Quilt Guild does and the awesome work that they strive to achieve. And then next we have the pleasure of, there you are. We have the pleasure of having Reverend Gail Dixon speak to us. And I'm sure all of you saw the Black Panther quilt here. She's not the creator of that. She is actually a former Black Panther, an artist, if you haven't noticed, an artist for the Black Panther newspaper. So it is just one thing that we'd like to do with this exhibition series is not only have the art, but have you, the artists, and real people that experienced in this particular exhibit, growing up in Oakland and being a part of its history, really bringing the art out of the walls and making it come to life. So without further ado, here's Marion Coleman.
Good afternoon or good evening, everyone, and thank you all for coming, and a special thanks to Julie and Neha for having us here as part of their inaugural series. We're extremely honored and excited to be here. I also want to take a moment and introduce or have a show of hands who are members of the African American Quilt Guild of Oakland. Matter of fact, if you stroll over here behind me, we'll just say hi.
Oh, yeah.
They like to see who you are, so when you're moving around after this, all right, so these are some of my little sisters. Now, so you'll understand, although there are women here, we also have men, have had men in our guild. So quilting is not confined, it is not a women's art only. And we are extremely proud that we are a multicultural organization. And so we always like to have Susie when she's leading workshops. African American Quilt Guild of Oakland. Yes, it's really about the quilting that we are engaged in. And I think many people like our guild because it's small, it meets on a Saturday, and we are approachable. So thank you, ladies, for participating in this project and for being a members of the guild. You make it happen.
It's too hot over there.
Neighborhoods coming together, Quilts Around Oakland, started a little over 2 years ago, and at that time we wanted to make quilts about Oakland because oftentimes Oakland gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
And we thought, well, we want to change that because we are the African American Quilt Guild of Oakland. And part of our challenge and reward is to show as many aspects of Oakland as we could. So in this project, we made over 65 quilts by guild members. And there were probably over 100 or more quilts made by community members. So the guild members not only made quilts, we got them out into the community, worked with young and old alike to make quilts. Some of those quilts were made by children, and you can see some of them in the catalog. And it's my mistake, I didn't bring more of them to see if you want to buy them. But if you are, I'll put a plug in. You can look at our website, aaqgo.org, and you can order one. So, as you can see from the quilts here in the building, we are covering a variety of topics. There's arts and entertainment, culture, so we have Aura Clay's quilted by the Black filmmakers, that's Aura in green. And we have Norma Mason, who did the great jazz and blues quilt. And they celebrate that tradition of music that's so rich and part of our past. Then we have, added to that, there's a mini group in the guild called the So-and-Sos. And that quilt's down the hallway, and they also talk about, like that name? They talk about various aspects of Oakland, including, you can see the big sign, the Grand Lake Theater. Now, do you remember when they turned the Grand Lake Theater back on, the lights on? I used to live on Mandana, which is up the hill from the Grand Lake, and one day I was looking out my balcony, and I go, oh, they turned the lights back on. Because you know, for a long time it was dark. They didn't have it going. But so that celebrates it. You can see Lake Merritt. You can see Fairyland, which is also part of cultural arts and entertainment, recreation for children. There are trees, you name it, we tried to express it. Now, so for community quilts, we had a group of women and they made quilts about the rose garden. So we just tried to cover as many natural events as we could, along with historic events. And that's where the Black Panthers come in. And I sort of consider it a historic event when you got the Black Cowboys, because they've been around for a long time. And for those of you who've never been to the parade, that usually is either the first or the second Saturday in October. It's held right near where we have our meeting, near the Infirmary Park. So if you haven't had a chance to do that, you should go down and see those fabulous stepping cowboys, those beautiful horses. And so that was part of what I was challenged to do, is to try to get as many fabrics that actually look like horses. You know, they have varying colors and sort of. But we also have community work. So Naomi Keith couldn't make it tonight. She's celebrating her birthday, so we'll forgive her for that. But she shows Oaktown Blues. So you can take that both ways, can't you? You know, she's using a blue palette for it, but sometimes we might feel blue about some of the things that we hear about Oakland, so she's conveying that. But she's showing in the work itself, she uses a variety of materials. She's showing multiculturalism, all the great restaurants that are around, including around here. Because as a matter of fact, Susie said, I knew they had all these restaurants. So we can, if you're a foodie, we're a good place to be. And then there's Ernestine, no, it's Ernie. She's showing us about the Fruitvale. And so that's another very multicultural neighborhood. We often think about Latino community, but we also know there's Hmong residents, Asians and so forth. So Oakland is just a vibrant place, and we are trying to show that. And it's again back to being sad. We see on the evening news there are fires all the time. And so I remember quite well in the 1990s when the firestorm jumped the freeway. That's the way I remember it. It was so dynamic that that freeway could not contain it. So I'm just I was trying to show and hope to show the flames and how they lick here, there, and everywhere. Did I miss any of them? I think I got all of the ones that are actually on display. But there are so many more. And if you look at our website, you will be able to see the other quilts. In addition, you will see some of them that are installed. We started this project in February, and they were in Oakland City Hall. They've also exhibited in College Library. They just came down from 2 floors of being in the Alameda County Arts Commission. In addition to this exhibit, which will be here until the end of October, there are a small number of quilts that are at Highland Hospital, at what's known as the Highland Pavilion. So stop by there and see what those are like. And we just want you all to think Oakland has much to give, and we're doing our best to show what it is, and we do it the way we know how to do it, which is stitch work. Now, if you want to learn how to quilt, all you have to do is see any of these ladies. Come on down on Saturday, because we love to show you the basics, or to introduce you to the foundations of quilting so you can move forward. Again, we want to thank you for having us here. If you have any questions after this is all over, just step on up and we'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
First of all, I just want to give thanks for being here, and I thank God for being here. The fact that I'm physically here, you know, and to be among all this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful artwork, this artistry that you guys are doing, it's just fabulous. And one of my art mentors is she doesn't call herself a quilter, but she's a fabric artist, and that's how I see you guys, fabric artists. Is that okay? Yes. Is that all right? Okay, all right. And I want to thank the Oakland Museum for their support of me, especially during this time of the 50th anniversary of the Black Panther Party. They are going to have an exhibit down at the museum. It starts October 8th and it'll run through February. And then the anniversary is going to be celebrated October 20th to the 23rd at the Oakland Museum. And the website is www.bpp50th.com. Just thought I'd throw that in. And I'd like to also thank the California Humanities, Julie and Neha, and I'd like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak about my time coming up in Oakland in the 60s and connecting it to my artwork that I did in the Black Panther paper, which is rolling around here, and connecting it to history, and hopefully, because I see there's a lot of young people here, hopefully we will see a thread that connects my elders to me and to the new millennium group of people, huh? We'll see. So first of all, I'd like to talk about the fact that we're in Swan's department store, and growing up on 40th Street, 40th, and now it's Martin Luther King Jr. Way, but it was 40th and Grove. And when I grew up on 40th Street, we were sort of in the middle of the block, and on the left side and the right side, it was white only. But they allowed us, I guess, to move into the middle part of the block. So there was a little group of us kids right there. You know, we lived across the street from Holy Names Church and School, and the Key System Railroad ran down the middle of the street. Well, when by the time I'm there, they're tearing up the tracks, and we have these mountains of dirt that the kids played on and everything, and they tore up the tracks and got rid of the train, which was the ancestor to BART, so that they could have more cars on the road. Okay, and at that time, in my child's mind, Swan's department store and Housewives Market was like one thing. You said Swan's department, you said Housewives Market, you know. And people went Swan's department, Housewives Market to go shopping and stuff, you know. So that's how it, I didn't even realize as a child that they were two separate entities, you know. So that's a little bit of nostalgia for me to be here talking about this quilt exhibit here today. The 60s is the beginning of the turn into the 21st century. 1866, there's a Civil Rights Act that is passed that says that now everybody, African Americans, are full citizens and have full entitlement rights. I want you to remember 1866, that Civil Rights Act, because in 1868, there's the 14th Amendment is passed that justifies our humanity, and then there's the 15th Amendment that's passed that says we have the right to vote, and then that's 1868 and 1870. In 1875, another Civil Rights Act is passed to enforce the Civil Rights Act of 1866. So we move now, see, I wasn't there too long. We move now into the next century, and we have the beginning of the First World War. And also, the beginning of the First World War means there's the beginning of this migration of African Americans from the rural South up north into the Midwest and to the West. And between the wars, there's this great sociological and political and cultural explosion called the Harlem Renaissance. And that takes place, and artist Jacob Lawrence documents that migration that takes place. Well, 1945, the war is over, the soldiers are coming home, and boom, you got the baby boomer generation. Well, I'm part of the baby boomer generation, but not for that reason. My father was not in the military, I've just got lucky. So the 60s is very significant. And what happens is 1954, I'm bringing in the history for you because I want you, when you get to the 60s, you'll understand it. 1954 is the end of the Korean War. I'm not very conscious of that because I'm like 6 years old, but my brother is in the military and I am conscious of military, okay? In 1957, guess what? Another, oh, I forgot. 1960, another Civil Rights Act was passed for the same reason, 1866. 1957 is the Civil Rights Act is passed, and I remember this as a child because my mother said she was going to vote for Eisenhower his second term, because he passed the Civil Rights Act of 1957. Then 1960, another Civil Rights Act is passed. And we're now in the 1960s. It's a time of unrest. There's, we're in the middle of the Vietnam War. The South is at unrest. The Student for Nonviolent Coordinating Committee is formed. There's challenges to segregation and voter registration drives. And there's protests against the war in Vietnam, and there's protests against racism at home. And these protests are caught on photos. They're caught in photos. And one that a lot of us are some of us will probably remember that's famous. It's a famous photo of these children who were walking from the 16th Street Baptist Church, and they were coming to talk to the mayor of Birmingham, Alabama. And the photo that captures that event are photos of them being attacked by police attack dogs and fire hoses. Now, they talk about this time in the 60s as being turbulent. And a lot of times the association of the turbulence is with the protests, the demonstrations, the counterculture. A lot of people call, I'm sorry, not a lot of people, but the hippies, and we get credit a lot for it being turbulent. But I have a dear friend that said there's two sides to every pancake, no matter how thin you slice it. So as I talk about the 60s, I'm going to show you another side to the turbulent 60s. In 1963, and I'm going to go through this pretty rapidly, but 1963, Medgar Evers is assassinated. And I want you to understand, I'm conscious of some of this stuff, and either subliminally or directly, or you hear about it around that time. So I'm sort of conscious about this stuff. You got 1963, Medgar Evers is assassinated. 1963, there's a march on Washington, and over 300,000 people attend that march, and that's where Martin Luther King's famous "I Have a Dream" speech, and it's for jobs and freedom for African Americans. 1963, 16th Street Baptist Church is bombed, and 4 little girls are assassinated. Also, in November of that same year, President Kennedy is assassinated. I was in the cafeteria at school, and there was mayhem outside the cafeteria, and the student comes in and opens the door and says, "President Kennedy has just been killed," And then we move on to 1964. Guess what? Another Civil Rights Act. And 4 civil rights activists are assassinated. 1965, Malcolm X is assassinated. 1965, Viola Liuzzo, she's a Unitarian, I'm sorry?
I'm glad you called her name. I'm glad you called her name.
Thank you. She's a Unitarian Universalist and a civil rights actor. She's assassinated. And guess what? 1965, another Civil Rights Act is passed. All the acts that are passed, they're either related to discrimination or something about voting. But all of that was taken care of in 1866, but apparently it needs to be reaffirmed. Then we come to my time, 1966. I graduate from high school. Also, the Black Power slogan was born in Mississippi by Stokely Carmichael at that time, but his name got changed. He changed his name to Kwame Ture, and he's now gone on to be with the ancestors. In Mississippi, the Black Power slogan, and I'm walking around with dashiki dress on my shoulder. I got the big wooden earrings, I got the natural, But like I said, this is counterculture time. So I also am wearing, as I'm walking down the street with my African outfit on, I was like, hey brother, hi sister. There's this community out here, everybody's part of the community. It doesn't matter that I don't know your first name, or what city you come from, your brother, sister, But also, like I said, it's counterculture. So I have my mini skirt. My mini skirt, you gotta walk around. Also in 1966, the Model Cities program is started by Lyndon Baines Johnson. Now, when I was up in Seattle, I loved that Model Cities program. But at any rate, the Model Cities program started down here. Now, there's something else that happens with this Model Cities program. It has boundaries where they're going to give money to certain communities. And so the Model Cities program, as it was supposed to affect West Oakland, at that time West Oakland was majority African Americans. That was before they scattered everywhere. So the African Americans was in West Oakland. And the boundaries included the Port of Oakland. And so when these leaders in West Oakland started demanding that they have more control over the funds that are coming into that community, the powers to be hurry up and took that plan back to the drawing board and gerrymandered the Port of Oakland property out of it. So that's just some of the things that was going on in 1966. In 1966, the Black Panther Party was organized by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale. And the survival program was community self-defense, not just personal self-defense. In 1967, locally, Denzel Dow was assassinated. You might have some quiver with the word assassination for him, but we can talk about that later. But he was assassinated in North Richmond. And the community of North Richmond and the family came and asked the Black Panther Party to please come and help them with their investigation of his murder, because they were being blocked by the authority in everything that they were trying to do. In 1968, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King is assassinated, and 2 days later, little Bobby Hutton, the youngest member of the Black Panther Party, was assassinated. A month later, there's a boycott of Housewives Market. Now, I would have to stop here and tell you a little story. I was telling some people the story here, that the last of this loop, there it is, there's a picture of me, and I'm protesting, and I'm at Housewives Market. Now, I have to tell you a story about this. I don't know how I came on to that photograph, except that the Lord just put it in my hand. And I carried it around for years with me. I didn't even know. And one day I found this photograph, and I said, oh, I think that's me. It looks like me. I think that's me. Now, what am I doing? I'm protesting. Now, the only thing I can think of is that I'm protesting Housewives Market. Well, let me make sure. And how old am I? I think I'm what? This is 1967, 68, I don't know. You know, let me make sure. So I go online to look up the protest of Housewives Market. I gotta read this to make sure I get it right, okay? I'm 19 years old, and I figure the purpose of the boycott is to tell folks don't shop where you can't work. I'm a little savvy with technology, right? Plus 1967. Guessing by the age I appeared in the photo. Plus Oakland, California. I even put in plus Swan's department store. Because like I said, they were connected. All that came up for me in this initial research, and I'm researching online. I'm savvy. So I'm researching online, and all that came up in this first pass as I'm doing it is it talks about how Swan's department store and Housewives Market, how it was built and how it was very prosperous in Oakland, and it was, you know, doing well and everything. And then when the suburbs arose, it went down and it suffered a little bit. Then the next thing I read is that it's being resurrected in the 1990s. I'm like, wait a minute, what happened? Do I exist? Is that a picture of me? You know, did that time happen? Because I'm already in question of it, you know, in the first place, you know. So I'm like, is it totally erased from history or what, you know? And the Holy Spirit persists on me to do the research. So I do boycott Housewives Market plus the Oakland Tribune. And then I get 2 articles about what was going on with model cities, and I get a thing about Nolan, who was the owner of the Tribune, and he waged a battle against that boycott. And it's totally erased from history. It just boggled my mind. And then, as I read the articles, I found out the boycott was not so much about don't work where you can't, don't shop where you can't work. It was about the murder of little Bobby Hutton, the youngest member of the Black Panther Party. In 1968, Robert Kennedy was assassinated. In 1969, Alprentice Bunchy Carter and John Huggins were assassinated in Los Angeles. They were Black Panther leaders down there. In 1969, Fred Hampton was assassinated in Chicago, Illinois. He was the captain of that chapter back there. And in 1969, I get married, moved to Seattle, and a year later, I joined the Black Panther Party. I went through all of that because I came of age during this decade. And the 60s were turbulent, yes, because of the demonstrations and because of the protests. But there was a lot of assassinations during this decade. There was 18 assassinations in 6 years. So this is the age that I come up in. And my worldview came from what I saw and I heard in the community and in the world. And during the time that I was in the Black Panther Party from 1970 to 1976, as one of the artists for the back pages, one of the only female artists from 72 to 74, I reported from my worldview, and I reported on the ideas and the politics in which the party was involved in, and as that are reflected in the 10-point platform and program. And I reported through the only way I know how, which is through my drawing.